Hi, I'm Chronic and this video will be about Dauntless, combat and level design. If you want to talk more about this or other games, feel free to join our Discord. It's in the description. If you don't feel like it, maybe learn to code and try Kryz's channel and join his Discord. Okay, let's begin. So, what do I mean by early game? I've only played until the point of getting my first axe. So, as for weapons, I'll talk about the sword, the hammer and the flying knife thingies. As for level design, I'll talk about the first two islands cause I only did a couple of fights in the desert and snow maps, but I feel like they were pretty similar. I won't talk too much about animation because a really good GDC video about this already exists. Link in the description. And as for crafting, the only stuff I've seen is that each boss has a corresponding set of armor and weapons, but at the moment they each seem upgrades from previous bosses, even if they have unique passive effects. As for gameplay, I love this idea of a team ganging up on the single boss with no other trash in the way. It's easy to learn and understand while presenting great bosses that feel unique in both aesthetics and mechanics. Now, for what I believe is the best combat mechanic in an action RPG like this, rolling. When you roll you have iframes or invulnerability frames, meaning you can't take damage during animation, and it's great for giving the player a tool that can not usually be used to engage the enemy, closing the distance, or as intended, a great mechanic to escape. It's also great to exploit, allowing the player to go under the boss while attacking, just try not to panic roll. Let's talk about weapons. Swords are basically a noob tube, introduction weapon, easy to use, high damage, decent mobility. Chain blades have higher mobility and attack speed with way less damage, but it also comes with a good mid-range attack with a Q mechanic that allows you to either pull yourself to the boss or disengage with a huge jump, meaning you can keep your damage output even if the boss is going crazy. Hammer, for some reason very high mobility for probably the slowest weapon, but still does decent damage and even better damage if you can micromanage the combos. I really want to see the other two weapons after playing with the hammer, because it feels like the hammer should be better than anything else if the player nails the power up and recharge combo every attack. If it doesn't reward the player for probably the hardest weapon to master, then that's not a good thing for the game in general. Talking about combos, the idea of combos like in a fighting game are nice, but right now attacks are only called that because the sword is basically a 3 attack pattern and the hammer is StarCraft. While chain blades are nice, I'm always wishing it would let me do more and faster, so I can't wait until they put more time into this. And now damage types, a lot of damage types. Slashing weapons like swords and chain blades are good for breaking parts, and hammers do stagger damage to knock the behemoth down, also breaking armor. With that said, having at least one hammer in your party until you get other weapons might be a really nice strategy, or even have 3 hammers and 1 sword and have the sword do last hits on body parts to break them, easy. Damage colors: green, normal damage, do this to kill monsters; yellow, part damage, do this to break body parts and run around the boss; blue, stagger damage, do this to tip over the boss; red, wound damage, do this to make it bleed and increase green. There are things that I both like and dislike in this mechanic. I like that breakable body parts have a separate life pool, and when it breaks the boss movement and attacks can also change, especially if it's the tail, but there are way too many breakable body parts and I think it distracts from the objective, you know, killing the boss. As for stagger damage, that I really don't like. First off, for some reason my eyes see this green and blues too similarly in color, and when you're hammering away at the boss it just clutters the screen. Maybe one too many damage types. Also, Since you can't see the stagger meter, it just feels random. If you could see it, then you could save it for a critical moment, but I would rather having all knockdowns happen only at the end of a sweet combo or if you can interrupt the boss attack. And since the knockdown can be done by everything that's not a warpike, just make it a big combo finish. Red damage is okay, a nice way to speed up the fight I guess, but if you're speeding up the fight you might not break all the parts you want. We don't need that many parts. Dying. Not really, you go down and then people get you up and you're healed more than with a potion. Decent way of not punishing the player too much, but also almost better than running back to heal. Cores are just cores, ways to maximize your gear and playstyle. It's more of the same stuff your equipment already gives, but nice customization options. Lanterns I really like. The first lantern you get is awesome, the one that tells you the behemoth's direction. To be honest, at least one person in your party needs it if you want to hunt as fast as possible. The other one I got gives you movement speed and also activates an area of effect movement and attack speed buff to the party. Mechanics like these allow players to develop tactical combinations when using different lanterns. I haven't seen other lanterns, but I'm saying this hoping there's a lot of different lantern mechanics that you can mix and match. And lanterns are an awesome idea to have in a game like this in general. I even think they should have one or two more slots with even more diverse lantern mechanics and even offensive abilities that aren't just utility or buffs. Put some knockdowns here since they are already charged with weapon damage. The little triangle in the top right corner, if it reaches 100%, revives won't work anymore. It's a nice way of putting some pressure on the players and making sure that they start playing safe. But I'm saying this without ever seeing it go anywhere near 100, so I fear there might be a difficulty spike coming up soon. I would make it incrementally increase the duration of the revive as it slowly builds up in percentage till it hits 100 and revive stop working. It would get the player more used to the idea that apparently you can lose. And now for my favorite part about game design, the levels. So, walkthrough. You get there and then you do the lantern thingy and you fight a boss. But I think the map itself is too big for what it's needed. When I first started I didn't know about the lanterns, so the first two games I played was me lost for the entirety of the fight, and on the hunt after that I fought the behemoth alone while my other 3 party members were lost, even with me spamming the flare. But after that I haven't really gotten that many noobs like me, so maybe we are all getting better at the same time. The map. There are some nice open spaces, some trees and cliffs. The healing cracks on the ground are a nice addition to healing potions. I believe from what I've seen that they only exist in these open spaces where you fight the boss room, I guess. And there are about 3 in each island? I don't know. But if you use them and you're really low on health, you can deplete that blue light real fast. The jumping geyser thingies are a good way of traveling the map, as well as the speed buffs along the way. As for farming, is a nice thing to have, I guess, but if you have the option to do an expedition hunt and get the crafting materials passively, I hope it's not a requirement. Back to the bosses, telegraphed attacks. Some are really easy, others take a little while to get used to, but every attack is telegraphed and accompanied by great sound design, as it should be in a game like this. If the player is used to fighting one type of behemoth, then he should be rewarded with sick dodging and premonition skills. Almost like seeing the future. When you do enough damage to the boss, it starts showing wounds and then scars once you've broken apart. And maybe it runs away and you have to track it down again. Then the boss enrages and he gets stronger. It might do more damage and some behemoths may have improved abilities, which is a good way of giving more of a challenge to players, but at the moment I think it might happen too randomly, which I kinda don't like. I'm not saying random is bad, it's just that what if a behemoth got enraged for a reason? But a really nice touch are the consumables like the Forensic Tonic that allows you to get real freaky in times like this. So overall, how is Dauntless level design? Bonus round! Do we have a clear objective? Kill the big bad beast. Yes we do. How do you do it? Any way you like. Are there other ways of engaging the boss or sneak up on it? Not really. Can I improvise mid-fight and try to make big plays that aren't just taught by the tutorial? Not really. You're pretty locked to the combos you are given. Are the maps intuitive and easy to navigate? Yes and no. The map mechanics are pretty basic. There are pop-ups with speed buffs and jump pads and sky all around since it's a floating island. But there are 3 or 4 possible spots where you can fight the boss. That means you can get lost and separated from your team, and I don't think flares can be seen from everywhere. Why not have geyser-like upward wind at some places over the edge of the map? This way, if a player gets lost, he could just walk to the cliff and jump to get a better view at everything. Does the game constantly teach you new mechanics and new ways to use them? Not really, everything is straightforward, your attack patterns are few, armor is just stats, although bosses have nice specific telegraphed mechanics that are just gonna take trial and error. Also, did I mention the map is too big? If you had to look for the boss seeking footprints, broken leaves or whatever, it might be a good thing to have a big map. But this is basically a boss arena. If the boss is not that big, the arena shouldn't be this big. Save big maps with a lot of cliffs and jump pads for larger boss models or a boss that runs away constantly, or even 2 behemoths at the same time. Right now, Dauntless is really cool and well made, with a lot of promising ideas, but I think it's only a really good structure for an awesome game. I know it's only in beta, but I would imagine that the things they're adding for the released version are just more islands and behemoths. Although that's not a bad thing, they need to keep reworking the combat and even the crafting system. If the base mechanics of the game stay too simple or become too hard, people will stop playing it. One last thing I forgot about the combat. Right now you have light attacks that don't drain stamina and heavy attacks that do consume stamina and do a little more damage. And this brings me to my main problem with the game, because I believe that all attacks should consume stamina. This means that players would be more limited in their combos and actions, forcing them to think before they act, if you will. And right now you can do that while spamming light attacks. It would also force players to disengage more often and wait for stamina to regen. Maybe players would use the stamina cooldown to pop potions and eventually working potions into their strategy. This would also make spamming the boss with attacks until you die and respawn with almost full health more unlikely. But I'm saying this because I also think behemoths should have less health and parts. Running around the boss hacking away at body parts might seem fun right now, but if this goes where I think it's going, killing the same boss like 20 times in a row gets kinda meh. Having stamina being depleted by every action and reducing behemoth's HP and breakable parts, along with smaller maps or maps custom made for the size of the boss or bosses you're fighting, I believe would give the impression that the gameplay has slowed down a bit, while at the same time shortening the overall hunt durations. I'm a Chronic, feel free to subscribe and press the like if you want more videos like this. Peace!